In May of 2020, I was on a Zoom call with my manager and a few of my team members when I found out that I was being let go. Budget cuts. In a matter of 10 seconds, I felt 6 years just vanish. The job was gone, but honestly, so was I. You see, I was tied to the job and I honestly did not know who I was without the job. What I came to find out on the other side is something that I wish someone had shown me sooner. It took me 3 months to realize that getting another job was never going to solve the real problem because the real problem wasn't the job. The real problem was that I had no idea who I was without the job. But I began to find the answer by asking myself this one question every morning. Who am I? Not what I do, not what's on my resume, not what people call me, not what role I play, not who I think I was, but who am I really? And to be honest, the first few times I asked the question, silence, nothing. It scared the hell out of me because that silence made me realize that I did not know who I was. I did not have an answer to that seemingly simple question. What I discovered through answering that question changed how I saw myself. But more than that, it changed how I see all of us. And by the end of this video, it's going to change something for you too. If any of this is hitting home or resonating with you and you want to work through it together, stay till the end. I have something for you. But here's the thing, this who am I question wasn't something new. It was a question that had been sitting inside of me for more than 30 years. Back when I was in my 20s, I used to work in this warehouse, and every Monday, a truck would come in full of vacuum cleaners. And to help me unload the truck, we would hire what they called back then day laborers. So it was a person that came in and basically just worked for that one day. And that particular day, they sent an older guy. He was probably late 50s, early 60s. And we began to just kind of, have a nice little conversation while we were unloading the vacuum cleaners. And I felt really comfortable talking to him, and I found that I brought up an issue that I had with my dad, and my dad had divorced my mother back when I was 10, and I was feeling a certain way about that, some unresolved feelings, and we began to talk about those feelings, and I'll never forget, he stopped what he was doing, and he looked at me, and he said, "Eric, that's your father, but that's not who he is." I didn't understand what he was saying, but I knew that what he had said to me was important. I knew it had meaning because it just went inside of me and I embraced it. I wrapped my arms around it. It was something that I, in some ways, knew that it was going to serve me later in life. We finished unloading the truck and I don't remember his name and I never saw him again. But 30 years later, sitting in that silence, asking myself the question, who am I? What he gave me, that one sentence that he gave me came back to me and it unlocked something in me. I remember just sitting there in that silence, asking myself that question. And I remember hearing his voice saying, that's your dad, that was your father, but that's not who he is. And it clicked. My dad was not that decision. I'm not my job. None of us are the labels or the roles that we take on or allow to be assigned to us, or even in some cases, we assign these labels to ourselves. Yes, you have the role of a parent, of a father, a mother, an aunt, a brother, a sister, a coworker, a friend, a lover, a spouse. Yes, you have all of those titles and you play all of those roles, but at the end of the day, that's not who you are. And you have to take a moment to find yourself. And me losing my job was the thing that was going to allow me to actually find who I actually am. You see all those labels that we put on, those are like shoes. You just put them on and you take them off. So you put on a pair of running shoes to go running. You put on a pair of dress shoes when you're going out. You put on some sandals when you're going to the beach. Each pair of shoes serve a specific role or specific purpose. And it's just like that when we take on a label, when you're a manager or you're a software engineer or you're a chef, or you're a parent, or you're a doctor, or you're an attorney. All of these things are just labels and roles that we should be taking on and off. But instead of taking them on and off, we began to make them permanent. We don't distinguish ourselves from those roles, or from those labels. And by not disconnecting from those, or detaching, or being able, or allowing ourselves to detach and remove ourselves from those labels and those roles, we began to take those things on and believe that's who we are, which prevents us from actually discovering and understanding who we really are. Beyond the titles, beyond the careers, beyond the relationships, beyond the achievements, the accomplishments, beyond the homes and the cars, and the wealth, the things beyond all of those things, at the root, you are a human being. And a human being is just that. All you need to do is just be. You are not any of those roles. Your job, your obligation in this life is just to experience life. And a job is just that. It's just another experience in your life, which means it's something you have, something you do, and then you shift from it. It doesn't define you. It doesn't own you. It doesn't go on with you. It's just for a period of time. It's just an experience. When I lost that job, I thought I had lost myself, but honestly, I had not lost myself. It was an opportunity for me to find myself without anything, or any distractions, or any labels to get in the way. I had an opportunity to meet my true self. So if you're watching this and you just lost something, a job, a relationship, a version of yourself that you thought you'd always be, I want to say something directly to you. You are not the thing that you lost. Whatever you've been wearing, the title, the role, the identity that you had built around you that made you think that's who you were, the way people viewed you, those things were never the fullness of you. They were never who you are. They were like shoes. You could take them on and you could take them off. You just never took the shoes off. You just always wore them. You always were the professional. You always were the parent. You were always the uncle. You were always the aunt. You were always the brother, or the sister, or the friend, or the coworker. You were always those things. You never detached from those things, allowing the truth of who you are, your true self, to speak, to be heard, because you had all those other roles or layers on top. But what remains when you strip everything away is you're just a human being. You're here to grow through this life. You're here to enjoy this life. You're here to experience this life. You're here to just be, not to perform, not to prove, not to produce, just be. And I know that feels uncomfortable. I know it feels weird, because the world is always asking you the question, what's next? And you don't have an answer. And it's okay for you not to have an answer right now. You don't need to have an answer right now. What you need is permission. Give yourself permission to just be. Give yourself permission to just sit in the quiet and absorb and understand and learn who you are as a human being. So sit in the quiet, ask the question, who am I? And trust the answer, and trust that the answer you get, know that who you are was never dependent on what you did, or what you had, or what you have. I lost my job in 2020, and I truly thought I had lost myself. But what I came to understand was, as painful as it was to go through that experience, that sense of loss, that sense of loneliness, that sense of disconnection, it was actually one of the best things that ever happened to me, because it forced me to find out who I really was, and to find out what is really important in life and what's important to me. And if you're at a place right now where you know you need to shift, or where you know you need to pivot, but you don't know where to start, I do one-on-one clarity calls where we sit down together and we ask the right questions, and we go through a process to reveal what is actually underneath. And we do this in a way where there's no pressure, and it allows you to speak clearly and get clarity about who you are and the things that you want in your life, and to discover the things that are actually meaningful in your life. It's a real conversation, a space to start finding your way back to yourself. All you need to do now is click on the link in the description below, and I'll see you in the next video.